Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to be reading The Five Rings Illustrated again, but this time it is the Scroll of Fire. Battle is like a raging fire in the Nichiren Ichiru strategic way. I will shed light on all things contest in this scroll. The people of the world have a narrow view on the principles of victory. Some focus on using nothing but the movements of the wrist and fingers to win, while others think of waving a fan back and forth, focusing on the forearms. Still, others place emphasis on just a little extra speed for weapons, like the bamboo sword, or work on the agility of the hands and feet. To keep following the strategic way, I have put my life on the line in countless contests. I have gambled with life and death to learn the way of the sword. I know the strengths and weaknesses of an enemy's tachi as they strike, and I know the proper use of the edge and back of my blade. To be tempered as a person ready to slay an enemy, it does not do to dwell on small, weak matters, particularly when you are in a full suit of armor. It is no use concentrating on the little things for just a slight advantage in battle. The fully realized meaning of my strategic way is going alone up against 5 or even 10 opponents in a fight for your life, but knowing the path of victory without a shadow of doubt. With that as our premise, is there any difference in persons beating 10 or 1,000 people beating 10,000? This is something to consider. Even so, it is impossible to amass 1,000 or 10,000 people to train with. This means that as you take up your sword alone, every single time you must weigh up the enemy's resourcefulness, know their tricks, strengths, and weaknesses, and employ your knowledge of strategy. This is how you come to a place of mastery, where you are able to beat thousands of people. Tell yourself, who else in this world but me can access the strategic way of the warrior, and which of us is the best person here? Use these thoughts to train assiduously from morning to night. Once you are forged, tempered, and polished, you will achieve a freedom like no other. You will discover inexplicable power that will be useful to you in any situation. This is the spirit that a warrior needs to employ: clever strategy. The situation at hand, there's a concept called shouldering the sun. For assessing the battlefield, put simply, it is to stand with your back to the sun, to be harder to see. If the area doesn't allow for keeping the sun behind you, then keep it on your right side. Instead, to make your tachi difficult to see. It is the same as being inside and keeping the light behind or to your right. You want to make sure to keep your back and right side close to the wall or an obstacle, and keep your left side free to maintain an accessible sword. This remains true for nighttime if your enemy is visible. Get used to keeping the firelight to your back or illumination to your right. You should also get used to taking what is called the high ground, an area that is at least a little higher than the enemy's position, from which you can look down upon them. When indoors, think of the tallest seat as your high ground. For the fight itself, it is important to force the enemy round to your left side, giving them no backward room to maneuver and driving them into a tight spot. The mindset is so restlessly press is to restlessly is to relentlessly press the enemy so that they don't have the time to turn their heads and see the predicament you have driven them into. Even indoors, keep them Keep them unaware of the thresholds, lintels, doors, sliding doors, or edges that you chase them into. Whether it's a tight spot, a pillar, or an obstacle, it's all the same. However, you choose to rush your enemy. Make full use of the lay of the land, whether it's uneven footing or an area with no room to the sides. Pursue the advantage of terrain with tenacity. Explore the possibilities here and train hard. The three initiatives. There are three ways to take an initiative in battle. The first of these is to make your move before your enemy does. This is called the advance initiative. The next is to attack the enemy after they make their move towards you, and is called delayed initiative. The last is called the reciprocal initiative, and it involves attacking the enemy at the same time as they attack you. These comprise the three initiatives. No matter what type of fight it is, once the battle begins, these are the only three initiatives that matter. Taking the initiative is the way to a quick victory, and thus core attribute of the strategic way. There are a multitude of specifics for initiatives. You will triumph by using the right initiative principles for the situation at hand, in cooperation with your reading of the enemy's intent and your wisdom of strategy. However, I cannot record every single detail in writing. Number 1. The advance initiative. When you want to be the first to attack, compose yourself and then seize the initiative in one rapid motion. Show your speed and ferocity on the outside, but remain tranquil within. Another way to achieve this initiative is to strengthen your resolve and move your feet faster than you would normally to get into the enemy's range for a rapid onslaught. Or unleash your spirit to keep crushing the enemy throughout the fight, keeping the same strong determination to win that you had from the start right through the fight to the end. These are what advanced initiatives truly look like. Number 2. The delayed initiative. When the enemy comes at you, give not the slightest reaction and feign weakness. As soon as they come in close, spring away suddenly, with your readiness to strike apparent in your posture. Watch for the moment the enemy falters in surprise, going in for the kill as they do. This is one way of taking the delayed initiative. Alternatively, as your enemy attacks and you throw out even more strength to overcome them, you can take advantage of the moment between the changing rhythms of attack to secure your victory. This is the essence of delayed initiative. The reciprocal initiative. When the enemy comes in with a hasty attack, remain composed and ready your assault. Once they get close, lash out without warning. Move so suddenly that you have won, while your enemy is still crawling at a snail's pace. However, if your opponent comes in for a more composed attack, get light on your feet and ready for a swift assault. Use the enemy's movements against them if they get in close enough to bash into you, and follow the momentum through for a powerful finishing blow. These are the reciprocal initiatives. Writing about the initiatives in clear detail is not easy, so you should contemplate what I have written to understand the concepts yourself. You won't always be the one to initiate an attack, but when you do, use the three initiatives in harmony with the situation at hand and principles, and take that initiative to dominate your opponent's movements. These initiatives require thorough training to perfect the spirit of certain victory that comes with the wisdom of the strategic way. Nip it in the bud. Nipping it in the bud means keeping the enemy's head down, as though you are smothering them with a pillow. The strategic way dictates that in contest, it is dangerous to be controlled by the enemy, or be a step behind them. Whatever it takes, you want to be the one with total control over your opponent's movements. Of course, your opponent will be thinking the same thing, so breaking their movement patterns won't go as you plan unless you overwhelm them. Blocking as the enemy attacks, stopping thrust, or twisting free of a hold means you have and are already behind in terms of the strategic way. Nipping it in the bud means using your experience of the strategic way to read the signals your opponents make in a fight and stopping them before they even have the chance to make their move. Nip their strike at the letters so they can't continue. That's the mindset for nipping it in the bud. Nip the A off their attack. Nip the I. Either I or one. Nip the I off their leap. Nip the C off their cut. It's all one and the same. Basically, to cut it off before it starts. However, even as your enemy advances, you should be allowing ineffectual techniques to pass, but nipping real ones in the bud to prevent their execution. This is foremost in the strategic way. However, be mindful that focusing on suppressing your opponent's attempts over and over will eventually lose you the initiative. So don't always be on the defensive. First and foremost, or attack, defensive or attack. First and foremost is that any of your techniques, regardless of the context, should be justifiable. If your technique has integrity, you can nip any tricks that your opponent might attempt in the bud. Integrity, huh? One who can keep the enemy in the palm of their hand without allowing them a single useful move is a master of the strategic way, and a product of hard training. Investigate the concept of nipping it in the bud as thoroughly as possible. Number 4. Traversing pivotal points. To take the ocean as an example for this, traversing pivotal points means navigating narrow channels or negotiating 100-mile long, 160-kilometer straits. Overcoming such perilous passes is what I mean by traversing pivotal points. Throughout life, there will be many difficult junctions to cross. To sail, you need to know the perilous places that need navigating, the capability of your vessel to handle rough waters, and even how auspicious the day will be for you. If you sail without an accompanying vessel, then you have to work with the conditions and tack into the wind or ride the tailwinds. If the wind changes, you need to consider rowing inland 10 miles, about 16 kilometers or so, to land in port. To get through life, one needs the same sort of mindset as sailing a vessel over uncertain waters. Life requires you to carefully consider how to traverse pivotal points with the right priorities. Knowing how to cross these crucial points in battle is essential to the strategic way. Assessing the enemy's position and being aware of your own competence, and then using these principles to traverse points in battle is akin to a skilled captain sailing a boat over ocean routes. The calm of the mind comes after the storm. Successfully traversing the critical point in battle results in a weak opponent, gives you the initiative, and brings you to a speedy victory. Being able to navigate crucial points is as important in large-scale battle as it is in single combat. Tread carefully. 5. Knowing the conditions. In terms of large-scale battle, knowing the conditions refers to the state of the enemy's vigor and morale. Knowing their intent, taking the location into account, and discerning their mental state. First, fight your battles with this knowledge in mind, using it as a principle to decide how to deploy your own troops and seize certain victory. Knowing you have the initiative. In single combat, it is important to have an understanding of the opponent's school, character, and strengths and weaknesses. Throw the enemy off guard by catching the variations in their tune and the intervals in their rhythm. To decide your offense, you will be able to see the conditions of many different things if you foster superior wisdom. When you can freely use strategy in your combat, you will be able to read the enemy's mind and unveil a multitude of paths to victory. Be astute in this. 6. Jumping the gun. This technique is used exclusively in and is incredibly important to battle. Firstly, in large scale battles where the enemy uses bows and Tanegashima musket guns. Tanegashima are musket guns. It will be difficult to penetrate the enemy lines. If you attack under the rain of arrows and the bullets have already fired, as they will be re-knocking arrows and reloading powder by the time you are close. To jump the gun, rush in for a rapid attack just as they fire their bows and guns. By storming them so quickly, it will make it difficult for them to knock another arrow, and hard to load more gunpowder. For you to jump the gun, you must be ready for whatever the enemy throws your way, by catching on to the most reasonable way to win in the situation and getting the jump on the enemy's offense to seize a victory. To correlate this with like now in days, know your enemy's weapons and act accordingly, because when you have an assault rifle on you, you don't want to charge into that. Arrows, it takes a while to knock the arrow. Knocking means to pull, but a gun is different. So take that how you want to, but this is different. This is I try to use this for life, not actual combat, because the days for sword fighting is kind of over, because guns were invented. In one-on-one combat, striking repeatedly after each of the opponent's blows makes for a continual clanging cadence, but does not get you anywhere. You can jump the gun here by stamping on the enemy's tachi instead. By trampling their blade, you will have won at the onset. As long as you make sure they cannot raise their sword for a second attack, this trampling isn't limited to the feet. You should take the opportunity to jump the gun with your whole body, trampling them with your spirit, and of course hit them with your tachi so fast that they don't have a chance to attack a second time. So let's say you're in a situation, I know this is like random, but a gun jams. Take advantage of that situation. This is precisely what it means to take the attack initiative in any situation. Although you should be in sync with the enemy's movements, it is not so that you can smash into each other. It is so that you are already prepared for the aftermath. Think on this well. But you wouldn't even know when the gun jams until they fire, so always be safe, right? Detecting the collapse. Number 7. Nothing escapes deterioration and eventual collapse. Basically, everything dies. Houses fall, the human body deteriorates, the enemy breaks down. It is at the point when things are no longer in tune that destruction befalls them. Memento mori. In a large-scale battle, it is important to catch the faint notes of deterioration and the rhythms of your enemy and drive forward to make sure you don't let the moment get away. If you miss the signs of deterioration, then your enemy will have a chance to recover. You will see the signs of collapse appearing in your enemy as the rhythms start unraveling during individual combat as well. If you are careless and overlook the cracks, you risk your life, and your enemy will get back up a renewed attack, and you will have gotten nowhere. It is important to press your attack firmly to widen the cracks and make sure your enemy cannot come back from the brink of collapse. Be straight and relentless in your offense. Batter them so thoroughly that they cannot even stand up. Consider the impact of smashing your opponent to pieces. If they are not utterly destroyed, they remain a threat. Be mindful of this. Number 8. Put yourself in the enemy's shoes. To think from the enemy's perspective, we should put ourselves in their position. The world over, we have internalized that a burglar hiding out in the target house is in a strong position. However, if you put yourself in the burglar's position, you'll see that they have actually just burrowed themselves away from the world full of enemies, with no alternative route. They are like a caged pheasant with a falcon looming over them, ready to strike. Work on your understanding of this. I think that one's kind of important. I want to read that one again. Number 8. Put yourself in the enemy's shoes. To think from the enemy's perspective, we should put ourselves in their position. The world over, we have internalized that a burglar hiding out in their house is in a strong position. However, if you put yourself in the burglar's position, you'll see that they have actually just burrowed themselves away from a world full of enemies with no alternative route out. They are like a caged pheasant with a falcon looming over them, ready to strike. Work on your understanding of this. Even in a large-scale battle, we have the tendency to think of the enemy as strong and become overly cautious. But if your troops are capable and you understand the principles that will lead you to victory over your opponent, then you have nothing to worry about. The same goes for one-on-one combat. Put yourself in their shoes. They see before them then an embodiment of strategy who is enlightened in the principles of victory, a master of the strategic way of the warrior. They will already be anticipating their own defeat. Contemplate what this means for you. Number 9. Realizing the four-handed grip. When you and your opponent are of the same mind and at somewhat of a stalemate, think of releasing the hold you both have on one another. A four-handed grip. If you realize you have come to this impasse, it is best to immediately throw out the tactics you were using and adopt a new strategy to achieve victory. If you cannot make yourself let go of your four-handed hold on your current strategy, even in large-scale battles, you will make little progress, and your soldiers will suffer losses. You absolutely must discard your current struggle with haste and take up a new tactic that will outwit the enemy. That is just as important in one-on-one combat. If you think you are stuck in the four-handed hold, you should immediately change your tactics in quick response to the enemy's stance and use a new ploy to ensure you win. Think resourcefully. Number 10. Lifting the shadow. This technique is how one overcomes the times when reading the enemy's intent is impossible. When you cannot fathom the state of the enemy's situation in a large-scale battle, you can feign an all-out offense to tip their hand into showing their ploy. Once their strategy has become clear, it is simple enough to apply the right tactics to secure victory. Similarly, in one-to-one fighting, when the enemy has their tachi hidden to the side or back by their current stance or hidden gun, if you feint unexpectedly, then they will reveal their intent in their movements of their sword. Intent, right? Once the enemy's tactics are out in the open for all to see, you can embrace the strategy you need and immediately go for the win. If you are too careless, you will lose the rhythm, so study this carefully. I would advise not doing that all the time because you risk a lot. Stifling the shadow. Stifling the shadow of your opponent is the technique to use when you see that their intent is to attack. In large scale battle, this means pushing back against the enemy as they are about to go on the offense. If you can show the enemy your ability to completely suppress their strategy, they will falter under the power of your strength and change tactics. At that moment, you can also change your own side's approach and seize the initiative to win with an open and focused mind. In one-on-one combat, use your own rhythm to stifle the enemy's techniques at the first sign you see. Ride the enemy's faltering rhythm and turn it into your own victory. Using the initiative for your fence, think about this carefully. Number 12. Acting in infectious ways. Almost everything is infectious. Yawning, tiredness, and even the time of day affects others. When you see that the enemy troops are getting hasty and losing their composure, if you take the time and act as though you haven't noticed, your enemy will follow that lead and let their guard down. As soon as you think your disinterest has infected the enemy, go for a single-minded, lightning speed, and secure unyielding victory. As soon as you think your disinterest has infected, sometimes I read faster than I speak. As soon as you think your disinterest has infected the enemy, go for a single-minded lightning speed attack and secure unyielding victory. This is just as important in single combat. Take your time and seize the moment when the enemy relaxes for a relentless attack. There is a similar technique to this called intoxication. Intoxicate their minds with your behavior and lull them into listlessness, overzealousness, or weakness. Practice this infectious behavior thoroughly. Number 13. Antagonizing. There are a multitude of things that can upset us. One of them is being in mortal danger. Another is trying to achieve the impossible, while still another is being taken by surprise. This warrants thorough consideration. It is important to know how to provoke your enemy in large battles. Attack with such ferocity that your enemy chokes on their surprise. You can then organize your troops to move, taking the initiative and victory before the enemy has a chance to recover. In a one-on-one battle, enrage the enemy by putting on a show of nonchalance, followed by rapidly forceful attacks. It is crucial that you keep the pressure on. Pushing the buttons you can see will provoke them. This will lead to your victory. Consider what a distressed enemy means for you. Number 14. Invoking fear. Many things invoke fear in us. We become scared when something takes us by surprise. In large-scale battle, there are many means by which to scare the enemy. Incredible noise can make the enemy anxious. Using the illusion of size to deceive can intimidate. And an unexpected attack from the side can incite fear. Latch on to the disrupted rhythms of the enemy's fear and use that to gain advantage. You need to win. In single combat, make use of your body to incite fear. Terrorize them with your tachi and make them cower at the sound of your voice. Remember, the tachi is the sword if you're following. Make the sudden and unexpected move, and while your enemy is recoiling, snatch victory as suddenly as you attack. This is important. Study it well. Forgot about this one. 15. Fusing with the enemy. I said it too fast. 15. Fusing with the enemy. Use this technique when you see that you are in close quarters with the enemy, yet also at a complete stalemate. Keep covering them so closely you essentially become one with them. Find your window of opportunity from within the mix. Fuse with the enemy in both individual combat and on the larger scale. When you find that you can't see your victory as separate combatants, blend with the enemy so well that there is no distinction between you, and use the fray to find your opening. Seize your strategy and take your decisive victory. This is an important concept, so take the time to think it over. Number 16, chipping away at the corners. Going up against an unyielding force head on will get you nowhere. No matter how hard you push, instead, hit the points that stick out. In large scale combat, look for the placement of the enemy troops and launch your assault. On the protruding corners that have little protection, if you can weaken a corner of their force, it will have I always fuck up this word. In a large scale combat, look for the placement of the enemy troops and launch your assault on the protruding corners that have little protection. If you can weaken a corner of their forces, it will have a debilitating effect on the whole unit. Debilitating. Even as that part is weakened. It is important to pay attention It is important to pay attention to the other points of protrusion to ensure your victory. In single combat, if you can land blows on the protruding areas of the enemy's body and weaken them even a little, their stance will falter, and you will win by a long shot. Explore this notion thoroughly and put together the pieces that lead to victory. 17. Flustering the enemy. To fluster the enemy is to dishearten, and confuse them. On the larger scale, this involves calculating the enemy's next move and using your prowess in a strategic way to bewilder them. Make them question here or there, this or that, fast or slow. Latch on to their chaotic and wandering rhythms for certain victory. In a one-on-one battle, get a good handle on the circumstances and employ various techniques to confound your opponent. Feint a strike or thrust, or make them think you're about to come in close. Identifying vulnerability as their rhythm descends into disarray is vital for seizing the opportunity for an easy victory. Work this over in your mind thoroughly. Number 18, the 3 cries. There are 3 distinct cries used before, during, and after an encounter. Vocalizing at the right point is paramount. Our voice is a vocalization of our energy. We use it to roar at fires or at the wind and the waves, for it shows the fierce power within us. The roar used at the beginning of an all-out battle should be as magnificently overwhelming as possible. Then, in the midst of the fight, a low, rumbling growl should come from the pits of your stomach. The yell for victory is mighty and triumphant. These are the 3 cries. In individual combat, pretend to strike at them while yelling an energetic A to shake your enemy into movement, and then follow the cry with a blow from your sword. Then you can announce your victory with a thunderous cry after striking your enemy down. These are the before and after cries. However, do not vocalize loudly when striking with your sword, just for the sake of it. If you yell during the battle, make sure it is a low roar. In time with the rhythm of the fight run through your mind as you study. 19. Interweaving. When the opposing sides clash in the context of large-scale battle, weave your way through the enemy by finding an assailing and strong point. As soon as it crumbles, move on to the next and to the next. Essentially, the idea is to shift the target of your attack as you zigzag back and forth. This is also crucial when fighting as one against many. You are not dividing your attention here and there, but rather fighting one strong point as the other is pushed back. Find a harmonious rhythm to that of your opponents to sweep back and forth among them, attacking in reaction to their movements. Keep an eye on the state of the enemy and don't hold anything back as you continue your relentless assault. Keep an eye on the state of your enemy and don't hold anything back as you continue your relentless assault to break through their ranks. A clear victory will follow. You can also use interweaving if you want to get in close to a strong enemy in a one-on-one fight. Interweaving requires oh, interweave. That's a tough one to say together. Interweaving requires a total commitment to moving in among the enemy, without thought or taking a single step in retreat. Consider what this mindset really means. Number 20. Crushing the enemy. To crush your enemy, it is crucial to see the enemy as weak as yourself and as mighty as yourself, pulverizing them in your mind. In a large-scale battle, this means looking down upon a small force or catching the signs of weakness and distraction in a large force and coming down on them hard, crushing them into the very ground. If you are too soft on them, the enemy might recover. Crush them like a bug in the palm of your hand. Study this way of thinking well. In time of single combat, if your enemy is not up to your skill level, or if they lose their rhythm and start to back off, don't give them any room to breathe or even look you in the eye. Crush them ruthlessly. The most important thing is to keep your enemy down. Don't even give them a chance to get to their knees. Study this thoroughly. Trading the mountains for the sea. In Japanese, we pronounce mountains and sea as sankai. Sankai can also mean 3 times. So, when I say trade the mountains for the sea, I mean that you should not repeat the same attack over and over again. Repeating the same move twice is natural, but repeating it thrice, if you use a technique on your enemy and it is ineffectual, try it once again. If it is still not working for you, quickly change your attack plan. If this next attack is unsuccessful, try another move. Storming your enemy like the sea when they are expecting mountains, and besieging them like the mountains when they are expecting the ocean. In a strategic way that courses through this technique, hone your skills in this well. 22. Knocking the bottom out. It may look at first glance as though you have applied the principles of the way and won the fight, but the opponent's fighting spirit has yet to be broken. So although they look defeated on the surface, they have not yielded the fight in their heart. Knowing the bottom out addresses this. Quickly change your mindset. It is crucial that you obliterate the enemy's spirit and show them defeat beyond what their mind can comprehend. You can take their fighting spirit with your sword, with your body, or with your mind. There are many ways to achieve this. Once you have broken them, you can move on. But if they still have some fight left in them, you must remain vigilant. For it is difficult to topple an enemy that still has spirit. Make sure you drill knocking the bottom out fervently for both large and small scale strategy, because the will is the hardest thing to break. Starting over. Number 23. This is necessary when you find yourself in a deadlock with your opponent. Throw away your current inclinations and begin anew in your mind, as though you were starting over. Feel the new rhythm and take your victory. Basically, adaptation. Adapt to what happens around you and in front of you. Starting over when you feel as though you are falling into a stalemate with your opponent means a rapid change of intent and use of entirely different technique to win. This is also important to get into your head for a large battlefield. And with experience in the way of the warrior, you will see it faster. Keep thinking on this. 24. A rat's head on an ox's body. When enraged with an enemy, you have both come to a standstill, trying to think of all the I was going to say peculiars, but it's particulars. Think of all the particulars. Remember, the strategic way of the warrior is like the detail-oriented head of a rat on an audacious body of an ox. This is what a rat's head on an ox's body refers to. It is the ability to suddenly change your mindset to be expansive when faced with detail and subtlety. This switching between big and small is fundamental to the strategic way, so it is important for a samurai to be able to employ this in everyday life. You should never depart from this way of thinking, as it is necessary to both large and small scale combat, so study it well. The general knows the troops, number 25. Knowing the troops applies in any and all battles. With your continuous application of the strategic way and wisdom of strategy, you will be able to think of the enemy as your own troops to command. Think of maneuvering them as you please, and they will be yours to direct freely. You are the general, and the enemies are your troops. Be mindful in this. Number 26. Letting go of the hilt. There are many ways to interpret this idea. It can mean winning without a sword, or it can mean not winning with your tachi. It is possible to write down the numerous interpretations of this mindset, so train diligently to understand this. 27. A body of stone. The technique here, body of stone, comes with a master of strategic way. You'll find that they are a being that is able to immediately embody the immense size and solidity of a boulder, untouchable and unmoving. This will be taught in person. Everything written above is just the vocalization of what has been in my thoughts constantly about my Ichiryo, school of sword work. It is the first time I'm recording it all, so the order of articles might be somewhat muddled and the details expressed inelegantly. Nevertheless, it is important for anyone wishing to walk the path and should be memorized. Since I was a young boy, I have devoted my life to the strategic way of the warrior, sharpening my sword skills, honing my body, the rigorous training, and tempering my mind. I've explored the various other schools and teachings, but have found them to be telling distorted stories, or caught up in fine points of showy techniques, or even just performance arts. Not a single one possesses the true spirit of strategy. Of course, it is possible to learn this kind of artistry, but practicing and becoming accustomed to using your body and mind in this way will lead to bad habits in real strategy. These habits are hard to break and lead to the decay of the correct path. They will cause the strategic way of the warrior to be slowly forgotten. The true path of sword work is knowing that winning a battle against your opponent and the principles of strategy are one and the same. If you take in all the wisdom of my strategic way and follow the true path, you will never need to doubt your victory. Well, that's it. Scroll of Fire is done. Sheesh. It's always about 43 minutes.